Hello and welcome to the sideboard here at the Players' Championship. I'm Ken Crocker here with our Season 1 points leader and hockey proficionado, Jim Davis.
It's true.
Jim, how you feeling this morning?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Feeling confident?
Ready to battle.
All right, well you better be ready to battle because we're here with a Legacy deck text.
That's
what
right.
you'll be playing first.
Yes.
So, maybe not the surprise of anybody, but I mean, you were out there. Some people thought you were playing Storm.
Right.
Some people thought maybe you might play Goblins.
To be honest, I actually considered it.
But you decided to play Sultai Delver. So you played this at SCG Open and won.
Right.
So obviously you have some pedigree with the deck. So let's talk about your choices for this tournament.
Cool.
So you're here, obviously, 4 Delver of Secrets, 4 Deathrite Shaman, but only 3 Dark Confidant.
Right.
So Dark Confidant's not seeing a lot of play here in Legacy lately. It's kind of been on the downswing. Why 3?
I mean, it's a cool card in the deck because it actually gives you a way to draw cards. Typically the Delver decks don't actually accrue any card advantage. They just kind of ponder and brainstorm and finesse themselves.
So like card quality, but not card
but it's not
quantity.
actual raw card advantage where Dark Confidant allows you to do that. And you can have some insane turns where you go turn 1 Deathrite, turn 2 Dark Confidant, Wasteland them. At that point, you're now creating the time for Dark Confidant to draw you a bunch of cards and pull you ahead. It's really good against Miracles. Card's just solid. It's a very, very good card.
Okay.
So,
yeah, it allows you to get a little bit of that tempo.
right.
So obviously, the reason a lot of people play green in their Delver decks is you get to play 4 Tarmogoyf. Card's good. We know about that card.
All right.
But let's talk about the 3 Abrupt Decays and 1 True Name Nemesis. So is the True Name Nemesis there instead of a Tastiger because you're playing Dark Confidant?
Right.
Or is it just, I wanted to play True Name Nemesis just because it's so hard to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, the one issue with playing Dark Confidant is that you can't play the Delve spells because they're obviously just way too
very
expensive.
expensive.
Yes. And True Name's kind of your high-end threat. Again, it gives you 1 card where you never want to draw more than 1 of it ever, and you usually don't want to draw it in your opening hand, but it's a good card where you can kind of just end the game straight through. It's hard to deal with. I flirted with a click for a while, because I really like the card Mandelian Click.
Okay.
But True Name is just very, very good in the fair matchups, and I expected a good number of Delver decks. So,
All right. So
got the nod.
Why 3 Abrupt Decay, though? Abrupt Decay seems like one of those cards that it's one of the reasons you're playing the colors you're playing.
Sure.
So why not the full 4?
Decay it's sort of in line with the philosophy of the next slide with Stifle and Disfigure.
Okay.
You want the deck to be as lean as possible. And whereas Rug Delver has Lightning Bolt, which is a 1 mana removal spell, we have Decay, which costs 2. And it can be a little clunky at times. So I went with the 3 Decay, 2 Disfigure split, which we'll talk about in the next slide.
So yeah, the Disfigure, which actually obviously Brainstorm Days, you're playing, Brainstorm because you're playing blue, because you're playing Legacy, so why would you play Brainstorm? Days probably more of the mana denial kind of tempo-y sort of thing you get in the deck. 2 Disfigure. Disfigure doesn't see a lot of play main deck in Sultai decks unless it's Shardless Sultai.
Right.
So why Disfigure over Dismember?
I mean, the life matters if you're playing Dark Confidant.
Okay.
And honestly, it just the 1 mana tempo play is really, really important. So it's essentially your Lightning Bolt. Obviously, you can't go to the face with it, but I mean, it kills Deathrite Shaman, helps you win Tarmogoyf fights, kills Delvers, and it kills many, many things for 1 mana, which is exactly what you want. You want to have your tempo plays where you go, spell, Wasteland spell, as opposed to just a 2 mana kill your
2 mana kill your guy.
Right,
so you want to get a little bit ahead on tempo.
Right. So it's definitely a tempo issue, and I mean, the decks that Decay is not good against, Storm or other combo decks, it's the same thing there, so it doesn't really matter either way.
So speaking of tempo, we actually have a bunch of counter spells here, or at least slightly targeting, target activated ability.
Counter things, yeah.
Counter a thing.
Sure.
We have 3 Force, 3 Spell Pierce, and 3 Stifle. First question is, 3 Force? So is this a hedge against just playing a lot of the Delver mirror? You don't want to kind of him to torque yourself.
Correct.
In this field, is that why you did that?
It's just in general. I mean, I played 3 for most of when I was playing the deck because again in fair matchups, Force is not very good actually.
Sure.
And Spell Pierce, you have Spell Pierce and Daze and all these other ways to interact with the non-fair decks. So it's kind of like a shave. It allows you to have a little more of other cards as well. Cost 5 for Dark Confidant is definitely also a thing. It's fine.
Take a little damage from Bob.
Right. So it lessens that a little bit. But the card is just card disadvantage, honestly. The card is it's obviously the glue of the format, but it's not overly powerful.
Very necessary evil, almost.
Definitely.
All right, so I want to talk to you about the Stifle. So we've seen Stifle in the Teamer Delver, Grixis Delver. You don't normally see it in Sultai Delver. Sultai Delver is a little bit more mid-rangey because they don't have the reach that those other, because they're not playing red. They're not playing Lightning Bolt.
Right.
So they normally play Stifle to try to maybe play Young Pyromancer, get a token out, and then just try to mana deny your opponent from there.
Right.
You're playing Stifle here in the main deck for Sultai Delver. is that your plan too? Because you don't have quite the reach that those other decks do.
Right. The goal of a deck is to be sort of like Temur Delver, where your Mana Denial, Wasteland Stifle, Efficiency, Disfigure, everything's very, very lean, and you're kind of playing the same sort of game. Stifle does that. I don't like him. I don't like having to have a Bayou in the mana base because it's just super awkward. And him is like, it's very hit or miss, obviously, right? It's random discard. Sometimes it's the best card ever, and sometimes it's just a mind rot.
I mean, also no Thoughtseize or Inquisition in the main either.
Right, because again, our goal is to deny our opponent resources, the ability to cast their resources, not deny them resources. So we're virtually denying them resources. Gotcha. So we have a Stifle. Stifle obviously goes along with the Spell Pierce, Daze, Wasteland package, and
you have Deathrite Shaman to take advantage of those wastelands and whatnot, which other decks may not have.
Right, of course.
So obviously Ponder, because you're playing blue, no big deal there. We'll talk about the fetch lands. Assume they're all blue fetch lands, but we're on only 3, 3, and 4. Like the Grixis Delver deck usually plays either 3-2 or 4-3. Is there a reason why you're only just on basically 10 lands that produce mana? Is it because you have Deathrite Shaman that allows you to get more mana? Since you are more mana intensive than the other 2 Delver decks.
Yeah, I mean, but we are and we aren't because we've skewed our deck so hard to make everything so lean that we're like almost not the bigger deck in a way. We do have the one true name, we do have Tarmogoyfs and the Dark Confidence, but I mean, Dark Confidence always some extra cards. We have Deathrite makes some extra mana, and the mana's pretty straightforward, I think. All
right, so really spicy part about these kind of formats is you have 15 other players to sideboard against. It's really what you're trying to do. You're not in an open field. You're not trying to kind of scatter your hate around. You have like targeted hate.
Right.
So let's talk about what you have here in the sideboard.
Okay.
We have a couple one-ofs right here. Pithing Needle, that seems pretty obvious. Like Pithing Needle, pretty much kind of a catch-all. You can name whatever you want.
Right.
But the Winter Orb and the Divert. Now, what are you bringing in Winter Orb against?
All right, Winter Orb is for lands and miracles. I didn't expect a ton of either.
Okay.
And I know like Joe Estep plays miracles a lot, but we actually can't play in the legacy portion because we're both season winners.
Sure.
So that was an interesting factor. I know Jonathan has played lands before, but you never know what everyone's going to bring. And Winter Orb is an excellent answer to both those decks. They're not great matchups. So Winter Orb comes down, and it's actually a cube favorite of mine because it's just like
Did you take it out of your cube and put it right into the deck?
I didn't actually because I have a gold border one on my cube. I had to purchase this at an event from the Star City Games booth.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so against miracles, I mean, they're trying to use their top every turn, and once you get them down to 1 mana, they can't do it effectively.
Sure.
Like, I mean, I lost the game against miracles in the Open in Philly, but I almost won on like 5 cards against, they had literally everything they needed. They had top, counterbalance, Jace, and I still almost won with Winter Orb because they couldn't effectively use their cards.
Okay.
And then against lands, it's obvious application. They can't use their Mazavith and their ports and so on and so forth. So.
What about Divert?
Divert it's kind of a holdover from when all of the Abrupt Decay Sultai decks were very popular.
Sure.
It's very, very good in the mirror. It's good against Abrupt Decay in general. And it's kind of a tricky card. It's a really good blowout card.
Yeah, I guess it's a nice one of.
Right, if you ever divert something, you're probably going to win the game.
Was there any thought to the fact that since all of the deck lists are open, that having this one of in your sideboard, now people might have to play a little differently because they don't know if you're actually bringing it in or not?
Not really. I mean, it's definitely a consideration. I actually didn't realize the deck lists are going to be given immediately. So that's a factor for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a scary card. I mean, the thought of getting diverted is pretty bad. So
Flusterstorm, probably for the Storm players that you assume are going to be here.
Sure, it's kind of just general combo hate.
Okay. The 4th Force of Will, probably more combo hate.
Right.
Go for the Throat, just a legacy staple. What I mean, we don't even need.
You got to go for the throats.
Yeah. What are you doing playing Go for the Throat?
I mean,
who's that for? What exactly are you looking to solve with Go for the Throat?
One issue with the deck is that it's hard to kill a large creature that costs 4 more mana. Typically, Tasigur, Gurmag Angler are the 2 big offenders.
So
there are a few more other ones, obviously, but we have no way to kill them if you can't counter them. So Go for the Throat is your extra removal spell. It can kill the Delve creatures. It can kill random other creatures as well. So it's just a way to interact with that. We have that, and then a Murderous Cut on the next slide.
So you have the Murderous Cut on the next slide here, which, once again, this is probably the safest Devil spell you can play.
Right. I mean, it's a card I would like to have in the main deck, but it's just too risky with Dark Confident. It's possible one main deck is right anyway, because the effect is so good, and occasionally people are going to play a Gurmag Angler, and it's going to be tough to get through.
Sure.
So.
And then obviously Surgical Extraction, Vendilion Click.
Yep.
You got a Maelstrom Pulse, and then Marsh Casualties. Marsh Casualties is not a card, once again, we see very often. So exactly who is this for?
For all the Goblins players in the tournament, I'll make sure I take them.
Of course, all the Goblins players.
Right, but no, I mean it's for elves. It's against Young Pyromancer in the Grixis Delver Mirrors. It's kind of has a lot of just like corner case applications, but it's mostly for elves and Young Pyromancer.
Now, is there ever going to be an issue with kicking it? Because I mean, that's 5 mana to kick the Marsh Casualty. There's a lot of mana, especially in a Stifle, Daze, Wasteland.
Right. Typically,
format.
in like a Delvery mirror, you're not going to be kicking it. But against elves, it's actually very common to kick it because they're never attacking your mana, and you're trying to slow them down. And your death rights always live.
Fair enough.
So I have kicked it multiple times against elves.
Okay.
And it's obviously much better as a kick because it kills their Deathrite Shamans, their Nettle Sentinels, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And then obviously Thoughtseize for your combo matchups at the end.
Yeah, Thoughtseize is very good actually because most of your disruption is counterspell based. So a deck like Sneak and Shell will bring in like a defense grid against you, or cards that are good against counterspells, and you kind of just juke them and get them with the Thoughtseize. So it definitely was a very good sideboard card for me when I played the deck in Indy.
And then finally, you said that you thought about playing Goblins. What exactly stopped you?
I mean, I played Goblins at the Legacy Premier IQ in Philly on Sunday. Just kind of like, I was going to play and have some fun, whatever. I started 4-0, lost 2 win-and-ins. There's a lot of Delver decks in this tournament specifically.
Sure.
I mean, given on the historical data, I obviously don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But a lot of Delver players, and Goblins is very good against Delver. Like, it's very good against all the fair blue strategies.
So what scared you away from playing it, basically?
I mean, last year,
combo players?
Yeah, we have some combo players here. Infect is not great. I expect Todd and Tom to be on that deck. And then last year we had just some crazy, like Joe Asset and Ken Ketter showed up with like Reanimator out of nowhere.
Just out of nowhere,
and Goblins just can't beat that deck.
Fair enough.
So any sort of weird juke like that's going to throw me off, and it just seemed too risky. And honestly, like with 3 formats to prepare for, it's tough. So I kind of was like, all right, I'm just going to play my stock deck in Legacy. I know my deck. It works good. I'm going to focus on the other formats as well.
Well, yeah, and you got to get through Legacy first anyways. So.
Right. So.
Fair enough. Well, Jim, thanks for taking the time to size in from the sideboard. Really appreciate it. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, you guys stay tuned for more action here at the Players' Championship.